What time is it? Oh yeah, it's let's rant about made-up degrees that nobody asked for time. Here we go. And before any of you get really mad before listening to the whole video, which people seem to do these days or any day on YouTube, I got a data science certificate a while back myself. And yeah, I met a bunch of people who call themselves data scientists reluctantly, and I met a few people who call themselves that proudly. So I want to look at this topic from a bunch of different angles because I just find it interesting how branches that were once part of STEM just get deprofessionalized and de-academicized. And I find that problematic. We're going to get into why that is, but this is also going to be a little rant. So if you need space to get stuff that pisses you off your chest, feel free to do that in the comment section and go crazy. Why would I never call myself a data scientist out loud or at least reluctantly? So whenever I do it, I just feel like, yeah, no, I'm more than that. Why don't I like this term for myself? And why do I find it incredibly cringe to see other people say like, I'm a data scientist? Oh, you are? You're a data scientist? Good for you. Was there somebody else on this party I can talk to? Oh yeah, there's another physicist. Let's go talk to them about quantum field theory. That sounds like fun. Good luck with your numbers. Yeah, we're going to shit on this in this video. And no, I'm not holding back because I'm fed up with this crap. I feel like a lot of people who call themselves data scientists just appropriate the term science for something that is not science. They're not involved with any research. All they do for a living is analyze large data sets in some corporate setting. It's not like you're doing research and you're specializing in some computer science-backed analysis or handling of data that you personally acquire. You sit in front of a computer and all you're doing is a bunch of regression models and calculations. What irks me about it is that they're trying to decouple the handling of data from the acquisition of the data, removing basically STEM scientists from this whole experimentation and setup process, saying, oh, this is so much work, we can't have R&D do this, we need some data science department only do the data. This is what back in the day was the people who only knew Excel and nothing else. Just now they do it in R. Well, it's nice to have a tool as a scientist. You know, it's normal as a scientist to use data analysis methods, and we don't call that a distinct science. We just do it on the side. It's nothing that needs a special degree for us. We do that in every thesis and every paper we write. We don't regard it as something that is standalone. So to say that you need dedicated personnel for that is just another way to split up R&D departments and tell us how to do our job. That to me, yeah, sometimes it can make sense, right? But what I see in the corporate world is more and more outsourcing, less communication, less efficiency, and it's all under the guise of, oh, you know, scientists are expensive, you know, a trained physicist should not do this. Dude, I'm doing that on my left ass cheek on a Monday morning before coffee. It's not hard labor. Don't act like this really needs some specialized guys who only handle the data. We can do it ourselves just fine. The problem is more like you're giving us less and less and less time for more work, and then you claim we can't do the work. Oh, we can do the work perfectly fine. It's within our scope, it's within our expertise. We don't need no data scientists for that. I don't get how people don't see what's behind this, which is wage dumping. Personally, the reason why I did a data science certificate or degree, whatever you want to call it, was just out of interest for the programming language R. I just found R interesting. I wanted to learn it. That is why I took a course in that, and I just found it a very, very useful language for what I do in physics, but it's also like I could do that in Python too. It doesn't depend on a language. And after finishing this, I must say I learned how to code in R. I learned how to use Python as well for data science applications. But frankly, I could have done that just perfectly fine without a degree. It's just a stamp on the stuff that I already knew and that I already learned in my physics degree. By the way, I've been told a bunch of times that my view is very Eurocentric, that maybe because I have never been outside of Europe, so I don't really have anything else to compare it with. Everything I know about the United States or Canada, that is from TV shows, reading, watching the news from over there, that kind of thing, listening to podcasts. I have a bunch of insights I gained from as much as you can learn off of sources like that. But certainly my view is Eurocentric and always will be. Why wouldn't it? So I don't see that as an insult, and I don't think I need to preface every video that I do with that, because it's kind of inherent. If you feel like this doesn't make sense for your country, that doesn't make it false for my scope. And I think the scope of Europe is still pretty broad. So anyway, if I really had no degree in hard science, I would never call myself a scientist. If I knew regression models, handling large data sets, learning something about math as much as I did in this course, I would still not call myself a scientist, because that is appropriation, that is weird. No, it just feels completely wrong coming from a background of university and knowing how much work goes into earning a degree like that. To sit down and take a class or a little specialization, or I don't know, even half a year of doing this, or learning it through work or something. No. It's not the same. I would not be cool doing that. I sometimes use the term data scientist in my CV or something, and I certainly found jobs doing that, but I only did it because HR people are stupid, and if they read something like data science, like back in the day it was like all the rave, and I still remember this HR lady, and she was like, oh yeah, data science, yeah, we've been looking for a data scientist. And I'm like, yeah, but you know, every physicist is basically a data scientist. All physicists do is work with data. I mean, experimental physicists as well as theoretical physicists. It's just a question how you generate that data. You can do that through simulations if you're a theoretical physicist. You can do it through experiments if you're an experimental one. And you can do both and then compare them and see if your theory holds. Cool. So that was such an awkward moment, and I almost felt like lecturing her on how stupid that is. But then again, I wanted the job. So yeah, I shut my mouth. But yeah, all you do, at least here in Europe in physics, is analyze data for all of the time that you are studying. That's like the first thing you start doing when you are in your first semester. Yeah, we have these half-year periods that we call semester. I don't know, do you have trimesters or what? We have semesters, all right? And so first semester, you have to attend a lab class. All you do is collect data, analyze the data, get versed in all sorts of regression models and other models, fitting data perfectly, least squares, Taylor series, all that stuff. You learn the ins and outs of it while studying physics, and you also learn at least 2 programming languages on the side. So that's what we do here. So to me, it's really ridiculous when people are coming in with this whole claim that this is a science, when to us it's literally just another subject that we have to prepare for over and over and over again for 3 years of the whole degree, or 5, or you know, until you have your PhD or whatever you do, right? So this is just something you have to know as a physicist. Is nothing distinct, it's not its own thing. So yeah, I would never call myself a data scientist before call myself a physicist, because that is not even close to the same level. Now, I met a bunch of interesting people through that degree, and I met a bunch of other data scientists who were usually people coming from fields in which it was harder to find a job. A friend of mine is a biologist, and she started to do the same degree as me. I don't know if she has finished it by now. If you're watching this and you have, like, congrats. And we met in that online course classroom through that very degree. And actually, I do recommend this degree to other people because it was fun, I learned a lot, and I met interesting people. And so she was coming from biology and said it was so hard to just find a job in biology that she thought data science and learning how to code in R or Python would be a great way to break the entry-level barrier to coding, and therefore to find a higher paying or any job. So she's coming from this high-level biology degree, really being good in this field, still not being able to find a job, and then basically thinking, okay, how can I make sure that people who read my CV think that I can do stuff that is useful to them, because they don't know what a biologist can do. Personally, I think biologists can be useful in many different corporate settings, as well as other scientists like mathematicians and physicists. But usually HR people just have no understanding of what people in STEM are capable of, and they're just like, well, your degree just doesn't match the weird opinion that I have of what you should need for this job, that I am not really educated in myself, but I totally decide whether or not you get it. So, bro, that kind of thing. And I could make a whole video in itself about how stupid people in HR behave towards physicists, mathematicians, computer scientists, and so on. And becoming certified as a data scientist, when data science is just a trend, helps with finding a job and basically making these people believe that you're useful to them, even though you were before your degree. I mean, as a physicist, really, becoming a data scientist does nothing for me. Everything I knew after, I knew before. Maybe it was refreshing to look at regression models again, but that is really something I read on an afternoon and I just understand like that. It's not hard, I don't want to brag in any way, but physics is a difficult field. So a bunch of low-level mathematics does not scare a physicist, but it sounds fancy to somebody who knows nothing about science. So I understand why a lot of people think it's a good idea to get a degree like that, and I believe that it helps them to find jobs, and that is certainly good for them. But we need to point at the downsides too, which will be wage dumping. The more non-professionals are introduced to a field that was before a professional or academic field, and that is, if you work with data generated by a physical process, you usually have a physicist look at it. And the physicist, him or herself, can also just work with that data, analyze it, clean it, and whatever data scientists think only they can do. But now the industry has an argument and can say, well, but we can outsource that to another crowd and we can pay them less and we don't have to waste the physicists for that kind of work. But all it really does is slow R&D down. In my opinion, the industry should just accept that good work costs what it costs and pay people good wages. And I mean, if you generated that data, you are already so close to it that you save your company a lot of time simply by knowing what you're doing and what you're handling, what to look for. And why would you want to train another unskilled person that does not have a mathematical or physical background or engineering background? Why would you want to train this person to communicate with you over your data set when you already know what to do and what it is you're handling? That just doesn't make any sense. It only makes sense in the corporate fake ass look how we can save money context. So the next claim I hear a lot of data scientists express is when they say, yeah, but we have real degrees, we have STEM background and so on. Yeah, but I only ever see people go into data science when they can't get a job with said degree. Like, rarely ever do people go into data science because they love data so much. And before data science was a degree or a certificate, people would just grow into that and eventually become the data handling guy in their department or company. And now everybody wants a label so they can put that on their business card and it's fancy and it sounds cool, but there is really no difference. In order to be good at knowing what you're doing with your data, you need to know what the data is and you need to understand it at a fundamental level. This will always make you superior to other people who do not have a degree in that field and just know how to work with numbers. So yes, a mathematician handling physical data or data from some machine, not knowing any kind of engineering or physics, will not be as good at analyzing that data as a physicist or engineer who learned how to do the mathematical analysis. It works that way, not the other way around. Unless, of course, that mathematician is a really bad example because they're usually really good at physics too. But let's say this mathematician really gets into physics, has that as like a second subject. You have subjects of choice, so many mathematicians choose theoretical physics or experimental physics. They have to do that too. And so so they know what they're doing. But let's say we have a biologist who just got a degree in data science, and so they know how to handle models, they know how to handle large data sets and whatever data scientists do. You can look that up yourself. And this person now has to work with data that stems from a production process. This person knows nothing about the production line, knows nothing about the machines involved, only sees the data, looks for really weird correlations. And again, I have seen all that in a corporate setting where I worked myself as a data scientist. So I've seen all sorts of dumb shit that people do who know nothing about the actual process, don't understand the physics behind it. And then it's like, oh, I see a correlation here. And then you come into this problem meeting, you're the one physicist and you're saying like, well, yeah, that is because of this, and then this is an artifact, and if you had studied physics, you would know it. But you can't belittle these people. You don't want to be the mean asshole either. So you end up explaining all of this basic shit again and again and again, and the company would have saved so much money if they had just let the R&D department do the R&D and the data handling and all of it in-house. And companies and managers and HR, they all just don't get that because they're cheap ass bitches. Now, what about the whole degree aspect? I find it very interesting that this whole data science thing is now handled like a real degree. I don't know if that is a thing outside of Europe, but like the units in my outer circle, there are no data science degrees here. I mean, you can call yourself a data scientist if you're good at handling data and you have like a STEM or computer science degree or something, and you just like to push around numbers. I think you can call yourself that, and I've certainly met people who did. Or if you just know Python, right? It's not like a protected term or anything. But what I see universities do, and I think maybe this will happen with the data science degree in the future as well, is that they just make up random new degrees every other year so they get more funding. For instance, at my university, from one day to another, we have this whole life science degree. Yeah, you could become a bachelor of life science or a master of life science, and they would sell that to young college girls preferably as the intersection between biology, chemistry, and physics. Basically telling young women, oh, if you feel like you're not up for physics because it's too hard for you, you can study life science. And it's really easy to find a job with that. Surprise, it was not so easy to find a job with that, because actually if you were a life scientist, back then nobody knew what that was. And you would end up having to explain to people that you were kind of a quarter biologist, a quarter physicist, a quarter chemist, and a quarter of I don't know what I'm doing here. So it was really weird, and some of them got fancy cool jobs, but most of them, I don't know what they're up to now, and a bunch of them just came back and started studying some other sciences. But what happened for the university is they got a bunch of new chairs, they got funding, they got more PhD students, basically a lot of chemists and biologists. It was great for the university, not really sure if it was as good for the alumni. And it was always on these STEM girls days that they were advertising these fucking life science degrees. How fucking misogynist is it to tell young women, oh, don't go for the hard sciences, go for this made up mixed sciences degree, and then you can call yourself a scientist and you have a few skills in every one of the major sciences, but nothing really hard, you only scratch the surface, but you have a degree now, so God, get lucky. What? Dude, I mean, I don't even know what to say. Or another example that is maybe not as good, but it's worth thinking about, is that they made up a whole medical physics degree. That is great, there are a lot of medical physics applications, but is it really necessary to make that a whole branch, to make that its own degree, when you really can get into the depth of medical physics by simply doing a PhD in that? Why do you need bachelor theses on this? I mean, and you could even do that without having a whole department for it. I don't know. It's great for the university, again, to have a bunch of new chairs, new fundings, and work with the pharmaceutical companies because they have all the money. But other than that, is it really necessary to make up all these new degrees? And I mean, with medical physics, it's debatable because it is very specialized. Personally, I'm not a fan of high specialization in university. I think that the crown of specialization is what should happen in your PhD thesis. And before that, you should try to get into anything that you are interested in. Studying for a master's degree, okay, good. You can already specialize there, that is a good idea. But before that, really, especially in mathematics and physics and chemistry, it's really important to have a very broad horizon and overview over the field, to attend all kinds of lectures, to get a hang of what you can do in this field. And then later you get specialized. Why would you get into a highly specialized degree from the get-go so that later on you can't really switch, and if you want to do something else within your expertise, you can't even apply for that kind of job because you don't have a broad enough scope. I understand that it's a problem if you're working with idiots who don't know what like a mathematician or physicist is capable of, and they think, oh well, it's just too much work to give you like 4 to 8 weeks to get to know this field and then actually be really good at it. Oh, we don't have the time in our company, we have to save money, that kind of shit. I understand that that's frustrating, and that's where maybe certificates are a solution to kind of just get accredited in what you already know, so these idiots will give you a job. But other than that, I don't really see an intrinsic motivation in it. I see it as a farce. It's so weird to me to be proud of that kind of thing and make it into some real branch of the sciences. It's not. It's a really small subfield of what scientists already do. Or what do they say outside of uni? It's not rocket science. I've done astroparticle physics for a while, so trust me, it's not fucking rocket science. It's not even particle science. That's it.